Good evening. I call to order this regular joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls Planning Commissions, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on www.minnehahacounty.gov site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural area surrounding the city. This area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commission will adjourn, and the next regular business meeting will begin to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Tuesday, May 28th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the Joint County Commission and City Council for a hearing on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, at or after 5 p.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date, and joint meetings of the County Commission and Sioux Falls City Council are held at Carnegie Town Hall, 235 West 10th Street. Action taken on the zoning text amendment during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the County Commission and City Council for another public hearing on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, at or after 5 p.m. Joint meetings of the County Commission and the City Council are held at Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the April 22nd, 2024 meeting are included in the consent agenda. Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the Planning Commission or the audience, and if any member of the Planning Commission or the audience would like to be heard on this item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. The first item on the consent agenda is approval of the minutes of April 22nd, 2024. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 24-26 to allow many storage units on the properties legally described as Tract 3, Lot 2, and Tract 3, Lot 3, Pleasant View Acres, the north half, the southeast quarter, and the south half, the northeast quarter, Section 19, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. That is in Split Rock Township. The petitioner is Brent Antonin, and the landowner is Donald Scovely. It's located along East Arrowhead Parkway, approximately a quarter mile west of 6 Mile Road. Does anyone from the audience or the Planning Commission wish to be heard on this item? I'll entertain a motion on the county side.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the county side to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
On the city side, look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
So we left this item on the consent agenda, and so talking about really both the approval of the minutes and this conditional use permit. No issues, obviously, with the approval of the minutes. I did want to make a point of discussion on the conditional use permit because of the site location. Nothing against staff, they followed everything procedurally correct. But as a commission, I think when we take a look at this site here, and I believe there's a lot of history in this area, but we are approving a conditional use permit for a piece of ground that, for all intents and purposes, is surrounded by the city of Sioux Falls. This is unannexed, so it's the county, and that's why it's joint jurisdiction. Frankly, to me, it's a bit of a head scratcher going through this process here and not having a bigger conversation with the appropriate stakeholders, with staff, as well as the policymakers in the county commission and city council about what are we doing about these islands where the city growth is passing them. And then here we are still allowing buildings to be built. And I think that as a community, we're starting to lose some of the standards that come along with annexation of the city, even if it's something as small as landscape buffering to adjacent uses. So I still intend to vote to approve as part of the consent agenda tonight. Didn't want to pull the item and stir anything up, but it is a bit of a head scratcher to me, and I just wanted to discuss that with the group. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we got our motion and second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Oppose? Passes on the city side.
Thank you. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 3, which is a zoning text amendment 2403 to amend the 2002 revised joint zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls to add long-term lease or rental regulations. Scott?
Thank you. Scott Anderson, Planning Director. For those of you representing the County Planning Commission, this is going to look a little bit familiar because we have already addressed this in the county zoning ordinance. But for those in our city partners, let me explain that back in December, we had a court case, and there was a decision by Judge Howman indicating that if short-term use or short-term or long-term uses are not defined or included in the zoning ordinance, then it's not permitted. And in order to address this, staff has been counseled by our legal partners here in the county that the ordinances should be amended to specify that long-term rentals or leases of property in the county are permitted, provided that they are lawful. So as a result of this, we have worked with the state's attorney, and we have drafted some language to correct this. And that language is in front of you, and it's pretty simple. It is proposing an amendment which would add a 19th article to the additional use regulations, which is our Article 15. So 1519 would be added to the joint zoning ordinance, which would indicate that that we are not going to prohibit long-term leases or rentals of property, and that as long as it's a legal use. So I will read this for you. It's a pretty simple addition to our zoning ordinance, and it says Article or Section 15.19, long-term lease or rental, and then it says, period, it is not the intent of this ordinance, which is the zoning ordinance, to prohibit long-term lease or rental of property so long as such use is otherwise lawful. And you may wonder, well, what does this impact? And it directly impacts farmland, leasing of farmland, mini storage units, businesses that a property owner may lease out a storefront to a business. Those are all long-term leases. And so we just wanted to make it crystal clear in our zoning ordinance to satisfy the court decision that came out of a trial that we had, that long-term uses are not prohibited. And so with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. And this is a public hearing, so after I answer any questions, you can open it up to the public as well. So
Any questions for him? Go ahead.
Couple questions, Scott. This doesn't pertain to short-term leases?
Well, we have already, we've already amended our zoning ordinance to indicate that short-term leases are or not, are how we are regulating those. So no, this does not pertain to short-term leases, only long-term.
And can you give us an example of what's lawful?
So you own a, let's say, perhaps this property we just looked at, you may own that, decide to build a storefront and then lease it to a Dollar General or maybe a doctor's office. And so you are leasing that property to them. They are not the owners. So it just is putting it in the ordinance that long-term leases and rentals are not prohibited. Or if you own a house. If you own a house in the joint jurisdiction and you decide to rent it out to someone annually, you sign a year-long lease, you have a family that lives there, that would not be prohibited. The way that the judge has indicated that if you owned a house and you wish to rent it out to someone on a yearly basis, they sign a year lease, it may not be legal at this point.
Is that the definition of long-term, a year, or what is the definition of long-term?
Well, when it comes to leasing and residential leases, it would be anything more than 30 days. So if you signed a 2-month or a 3-month lease, that would be a long-term lease. So anything less than 30 days is short-term.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for him?
Okay, thank you.
Scott, this is pardon me for asking, but this is just, we're just revising that. This is just a public hearing. Do we have to vote on these?
Yes, so the process would be, you would call for any testimony from the public on this item specifically, and then close the floor, and then you can discuss that amongst yourself. And this is an ordinance amendment, so your action would be a recommendation that we would carry forth to the joint elected officials on June 25th.
Is there anyone from the audience that cares to address this item? If you'd like to speak, you have to step to the podium, state your name and address.
Tell you what, I've been east and west and over the ocean, but never in front of this body. We own some property at Lyons.
Sir,
South
can you state your
Dakota.
name and address, please?
Okay, how's this? We own some property in Lyons, South Dakota, specifically the site of the old gymnasium. And our neighbor, Mr. Hanton, purchased the old school and a lot adjacent to that old school. And I'm wondering if that's gonna impact our, the property that we own. Maybe I'm just whizzing up a rope here, I don't know.
So I can answer that.
Here's what I received from Mr. Hanton.
So so this is a rezoning request that's on our next item, our next agenda item.
Okay.
And we'll be discussing the rezoning of 2401 at the County Planning Commission meeting. Lyons is not located within the joint jurisdiction of Sioux Falls. So right now, this body is just working with a joint area
Sioux Falls.
just around, just a short area, a small area around Sioux Falls. Kevin, can you show the joint zoning map? You can pull that up quick. So there's a joint zoning area, and that's shown on the map. And it's basically like a mile or two around Sioux Falls. So that tan area.
We're more than that, we're up in Lyons.
Yes, and so we will be having a hearing on your item shortly.
Today,
Shortly.
bueno, thank you.
Anyone else from the audience care to address this item? And I'll close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, if I may, This really is kind of bringing the standard we already have in the county over to the city as well, so, and we've already, again, have voted on that, as Scott indicated, so with that knowledge, I guess I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I've been a motion and a second to approve the zoning text amendment 24-03. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
On the city side, look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Oppose? It passes on the city side.
Thank you. Any old business? Any new business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned on the county side.
City side.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Adjourned on the city side.
Thank you.